one that caught people by surprise. Quinton Williams, there had been a lot of chatter about. This was the one that all of a sudden came out of nowhere. Sauce Gardner tweets out that it was great being in New York, and people thought it was a joke. They thought it was a joke that he was saying. Like, you weren't expecting Sauce Gardner to be dealt, but the deal is that the Colts felt like they had a window now. They've got the best record in football. They're sitting there on top of the AFC. They have a chance to win the division. They have a chance to get home field advantage. They have a chance in the first season without the late, great Jim Irsay to have a memorable season. And so this reminds me a little bit of the Commanders last year when the Commanders had an unexpectedly great year, and right at the deadline, they traded for Marshawn Lattimore. They went out and did that. Now, the Indianapolis Colts have gone out and traded essentially the price that the Packers got, or the Cowboys got back from Micah Parsons.
Which now the Cowboys use some of that capital. It's kind of interesting.
2 ones and a player to get a front line defensive starter. There aren't many cornerbacks, if any, that are much better than Sauce Gardner. And to get a player of that stature, that magnitude, the Colts felt like they had to give up double ones and A.D. Mitchell, and they did.
And not only is he a frontline player, he's a perfect fit with Lou Anarumo. I work with Lou in Miami. He wants to play man-to-man. Actually, we drafted Xavier Howard, who ironically was with them for a couple of weeks earlier in the season. It's that same prototype. It's length. It's somebody that can have really good ball skills. The Colts were 29th guys on third down defense. It wasn't good enough. This is a frontline player in the prime of his career that's a perfect scheme fit. So when you check all those boxes, it allows Chris Ballard to take this calculated risk. And to your point about them being surprised, I was texting with A.J. Vaynerchuk of VaynerMedia, who represents Sauce Gardner, and his words were shocking and stunned. They had no idea this was coming. So not only are we surprised, but so was Sauce.
Yeah, Sauce's brother is his agent. They said they had no idea anything was going to happen, but they did hear, I believe, from some of the coaching staff once it had already happened.
Now, there had been a lot of chatter across the league that the Indianapolis Colts were making a lot of calls and checking in on frontline defensive players. And there were a lot of names that I thought of that could wind up in Indy. But of all the names I thought of, if I'm being honest, Sauce Gardner was not one of the names that I expected to wind up in Indianapolis.
You were probably thinking pass rush. Someone to go opposite Laiatu Latu. Even though right now, in terms of sacks, they're top 10 in the NFL in sacks. They're 11th in QBR, allowed third in interception. So Lou has still been able to kind of hold it together, especially in the back end, with a very, let's just say, less than star-studded secondary. But now, as Mike just alluded to, they're in the top half of the league in terms of the frequency with which they like to play man coverage. That's about to go up, especially with this dude, because this guy is a lockdown chess piece. He's a guy who you can move around and see. So now, as they get into the meat of their schedule and they get into the postseason, and you're dealing with teams that have absolute game breakers in the AFC, Sauce is one of those movable pieces now that you can move around. Now, if they still have enough, do they still have enough pass rush? Is pass rush going to still be an issue for them once they get into the postseason? We will see. But Lou has done a fantastic job this year. After last year being like unceremoniously just dumped out of Cincinnati.
Well, the Bengals defense still stinks. So.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it kind of tells the tale as far as how that goes. But yeah, this is a heck of a move for Chris Ballard. This is a heck of a redemption year for Chris Ballard and the Colts overall.
And Lou, speaking of redemption, the other thing this trade screams to us is Daniel Jones is the Colt quarterback for the foreseeable future. It's amazing. A couple months ago, we're sitting here in August saying, is it Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones? Now, trading away all these draft choices, it's Daniel Jones, who doesn't have a contract for next year. So either they sign him to a deal that I think is probably in the Baker Mayfield range, or I'm sure they're going to franchise him. But obviously, this is a strong signal that we are set at the quarterback position.
Yeah, it looks like they're going all in. The Seahawks also doing that. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. And a reminder that Adam Schefter has told us this is one of the wildest, most significant trade deadlines we have seen. There's still more time for things to happen, right?
Look, these are two veterans of this sport. Have you ever remembered a trade deadline where there was more significant action than this one?
We've done a lot of shows like this, dude, in our time. Never. Especially when I'm sitting in the green room. I mean, I'm hearing people in the studio here before we come on air screaming, "Whoa, what? They're doing what?" I mean, so that just tells you right there. There's a lot of juice going on today.
There is a lot of these teams that believe they can be contenders. They said, we hit November, we're going all in, we're going to make something happen. Go ahead, Mike T.
And I know we'll get it later in the show, but I think this
top receiver, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Seattle's top 5 offense.
Meanwhile, the Jets are sending cornerback Sauce Gardner to the Colts. Sources told ESPN's Adam Schefter. Gardner signed a 4-year, $120 million deal with the Jets this offseason, but the team is struggling to a 1-7 start. Gardner is now on the move to the AFC South leading Colts. We have a great trio ready to react. Jeff Saturday, Dan Graziano, and Mike Tannenbaum. But Jeff, I want to start with you and your former team. What immediately came to mind when you saw Sauce Gardner to the Colts?
Yeah, they're all in, right? They're looking at this as their offense has played extremely well this season, kind of record-setting numbers in all honesty, and they need defensive flexibility in the background for Lou Amaruna. You got to figure out how can we do it, and they think that Sauce Gardner is going to be there. You pair him back there with Cam Bynum, Kenny Moore, Travarius Ward when he gets back. You're talking about a very strong defensive backfield, maybe opportunities to play some man instead of just zone. We're seeing some of the best defenses when you have to do it to bring pressure. So maybe they're just thinking, hey, look, we got a shot at this thing. We're looking at the AFC and the entirety of the NFL going, hey, we're one of these top ones. Let's go all in and try to win this thing this year.
Yeah, let's turn to our NFL insider, Dan Graziano. Dan, what more can you share about Indy pulling the trigger on this move?
Well, obviously a very aggressive move by the Colts to acquire a player that, quite frankly, I don't think a lot of people around the league thought was available. The Jets have been taking and frankly making calls about several players on their roster ahead of the trade deadline, and this might not be their last move, but the Colts obviously offering a very strong package, 2 first-round picks and wide receiver Adonai Mitchell in exchange for Sauce Gardner. Now, the Jets signed Sauce Gardner to a long-term contract in the offseason. However, the way they structured that contract kind of made it a little bit easier to trade. The signing bonus was relatively low, $13.75 million, so the Jets will carry $11 million in dead money on their salary cap next year. But in return, they get 2 first-round picks and a talented young wide receiver. So the Colts all in, as Jeff Saturday pointed out, and the Jets, looking to kind of get a rebuild going, trade one of their best players, yes, but for significant draft capital that should help accelerate that rebuild.
Yeah, it seems they really need to do that. Mike T., what do you make of this move?
Christine, similar to what Jeff Saturday just talked about, I work with Lou Anarumo, the Colts defensive coordinator in Miami. He likes to play man-to-man. We drafted Xavier Howard there, ironically, someone they signed for a couple weeks earlier this season. Sauce Gardner is the prototypical corner they want to have because he's long, they can play man-to-man, and now you can, as Jeff alluded to, now you could pressure, something that they were really struggling to do. Right now, they're 29th in the NFL on third down defense. This should materially help that. So this is certainly an all-in move. This validates, hey, Daniel Jones is our future because we're giving up this draft capital. Yeah. And talking about being stunned, I was texting with AJ Vanderchuck of Vayner Sports, his agent, and he was shocked. So they did not see this coming whatsoever.
They did not see it at all. Yeah. We already saw Sauce, by the way, tweet about it. He said, thank you to the Jets. All right, we'll see what happens. Mike T., what's your name? Jay. What do you have?
No, I want Mike T to do it.